What is going on, guys? Welcome to your 25th HTML5 tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to start talking about how to incorporate JavaScript into our HTML5 document. Now before I even begin, I want to mention this. If I'm moving too fast or if I start talking about stuff and you guys don't understand what it is, it's because you probably don't have a full understanding of JavaScript. So in order to kind of continue on with these tutorials, I highly recommend that you go watch my JavaScript tutorial series. I think it's like 50 or 60 videos. If you go to thenewboston.com and look under tutorials for JavaScript, watch all of those and then hop back here because I'm going to be hopping into kind of some intermediate JavaScript topics, and you definitely need a solid background. So if you watch those tutorials, you're going to be good to go. You're going to be golden. So the very first thing I want to do is I want to make an external JavaScript file because we're going to be typing kind of a lot of JavaScript. So I don't want to embed it or else it's going to get messy. And another thing, I ripped out all of those HTML5 tags and also that CSS file declaration. So anyways, just want to tell you guys, this is our starting point. No CSS files for now. So go ahead and hit new and just go ahead and save this as we'll just save it as bucky.js, but I like to use the drop down menu. So .js, and you can save yours as anything.js. And I don't know if you guys forgot this or not, but whenever you're working with JavaScript embedded, then you usually need those script tags. But whenever you have an external JavaScript file, then remember not to write those script tags whatsoever. And that's because just like CSS, whenever you're writing it in its own file, it doesn't need any tags. So we'll leave that empty for now, but what we do want to do is this. We need those tags in the HTML file to kind of reference our JavaScript file. So I'm going to go ahead and write script, and before I forget, I want to mention this. In my old JavaScript tutorials, I mentioned that you need that type attribute that says type equals text JavaScript, but with HTML5 in a lot of new browsers nowadays, the default scripting language is JavaScript. So therefore you don't need to explicitly tell it that you're working with JavaScript because it's going to assume that you're working with JavaScript by default. So no type attribute needed. Just go ahead and write your source attribute, which is what is the name of the file that you want to include? Bucky.javascript. So now just go ahead and end a scripting tag to complete both of your scripting tags. And now I'm going to write three things that are going to help us with this example. I'm just going to make three simple sample paragraphs. These are going to be pretty boring. First, and yep, this is going to be second, and this is going to be third. Second and third. And now I want to give these each an ID. I want to give this one an ID of tuna. I want to give this second one an ID of, let's say, bacon, because I'm terribly hungry right now. And this third one an ID of tuna. So as you notice, this first paragraph and this third paragraph both have an ID of tuna, and the second paragraph has an ID of bacon. So if we just go ahead and save this and refresh it, we get 1, 2, 3 paragraphs. If we click on them, nothing happens. They're just plain old dumb paragraphs on our screen. So now let's go ahead and add some intelligence to this. The first thing I want to do is I want to talk to you guys about a new function called query selector. So what I'm going to be doing is building a couple functions of our own because we're going to need to build our own functions in order to test out what I'm going to be telling you guys in the upcoming tutorial. So this very first function, the only thing it's going to do is it's going to return to us either one element or a list of elements. So I'm just going to name it get stuff. So its job is pretty much this. Scroll through the document, and now this is the method I told you guys about. QUERYSELECTOR. And there are a couple of different variations of this method, so you definitely want to type it exactly like I have it. And now for this parameter, what I'm going to write is tuna. Now what query selector means is basically this. Select everything with the ID of tuna. So it's going to select this one and this one. Now this variation of this method is going to return to you the very first element selected. So it's going to say, okay, I'm going to scroll through your document, and as soon as I hit an element with the ID of tuna, that's what I'm going to return. So in this case, it would return this first paragraph. So what we're going to say is, okay, then we can, just do stuff to it. So what do we want to do whenever it returns this? We'll just write on click equals talk. And you're saying, okay, what the heck does that mean? This pretty much means whenever we click that paragraph that it returned, call a talk function. And you're saying, what the heck is a talk function? Well, that's actually a function that I'm going to be building right now. Function, spelled that wrong, talk, and all talk is going to do is it's going to be real simple. Just pop up an alert box on the screen that says, I don't know, like say something, yo ma, just like that. Now, if we go ahead and run this right now, nothing's going to happen because even though we made this function's job is to scroll through our HTML file and return an item with the ID of tuna. However, we built the function, but we never called it. We never used this function. So it's made, it's ready to go, but we never used it. So we need a point where we can say, okay, as soon as our document is loaded, then the very first thing I want to do is call this function. So a great place to do this is if we hit window on load, and this calls whenever everything in our web page gets loaded. What do you want to do? We want to get stuff just like that. So now let me make sure I have all my semicolons. Probably spelled something wrong, but we'll figure it out later on. And I'm going to go ahead and refresh this page and check it out. I'm clicking third, nothing happening. Clicking second, nothing's happening. Now I'm going to go ahead and click first and check this out. As soon as I do, an alert box pops up that says yo ma. Hit OK, and now let me explain to you guys. Whenever I hit first, why does this alert box called yo ma pop up? Well, because of this. What we did in our HTML file is we included this JavaScript file. So this pretty much takes everything right here, copies it, and pastes it right in here. So, okay, we understand how that works. Now, what exactly happens? Well, the very first thing that's going to happen is all of our document is going to load. All of this stuff right here. So whenever everything is fully loaded, it calls this function right here. What this function says is basically, okay, look through our document and find the very first element with the ID of tuna. So it looks through our document and it says, okay, this is the first element with the ID of tuna, this first paragraph, this one right here. Now, what do you want me to do with that? Well, we just want to say, okay, now whenever you click that element, call the talk function. So it's saying, okay, whenever you click this first paragraph right here, call the talk function, and all this talk function does is pop up an alert box on the screen that says yo ma. So therefore, this one didn't work, this one didn't work. Only the first one, when we clicked it, an alert box popped up that said yo ma. And there you have it. There is your introductory to JavaScript. I know I took it kind of slow this time because, you know, it's been a little ways, or excuse me, it's been, you know, probably a couple months since you typed any JavaScript. But hopefully you understand it. We're back in business, back in the flow. So that's all I have for you guys for this tutorial. I don't know if we're going to be working with JavaScript in the very next tutorial, but we're definitely going to be using it later on whenever we're using the APIs and all these awesome stuff that's built into HTML5. So there you go, there you have it. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to check out my new website. Go to thenewboston.com and it'll pop up. Tell me guys what you think. So yeah, there you go. I'll see you later.